yesterday we were talking about the Doolittle raid, right? And we watched the end of Pearl Harbor. Yes, that was yesterday. Yes. Shake your head. Yes. Okay. Now, today I want to expand on this a little bit, okay? Because the impact of it is actually quite a bit greater than you might assume with just 16 B-25 bombers, right? Did you guys get these notes? Yeah. Okay. So what did it do? What impact did this have? Okay. So very little physical damage, but you guys have all heard of the word kamikaze, right? You know what that means? English translation?
Suicide bombers. It's some kind of divine wind.
Divine wind. Okay. Now, if I go back to this map, the Japanese believe that they are protected by this divine wind. Okay, and this belief dates back to the 13th century when the Mongols were a Mongol armada of ships was about to invade Japan. And a typhoon, what we call a hurricane, swept that armada out to sea. And so since the 13th century, the Japanese believed they were protected by this divine wind. But when those 16 bombers flew in under radar and hit Tokyo and some other cities, that belief was like shot. You know what I mean? It scared the Japanese. Now, I'm going to use a football analogy here. Okay? You know, some of you watch football, some of you don't. But at the end of a game, okay, say your team is down by 3 points, and you've got the ball on your own 20-yard line. You got to go 80 yards in 1 minute. And your quarterback is Tom Brady, or your quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. All right. Now, what kind of defense is the other team going to put up? Called a prevent defense. So they're going to try and prevent the long throw down the field, the bomb, or the Hail Mary, if you will. Yes? Okay, now, so you dropped your linebackers back, you dropped your corners and your safeties back, okay? And that opens up all kinds of holes in your defense. So if you have a good quarterback, he exploits those holes in your defense, gets the ball on the sideline, out of bounds, clock stops, right? Next thing you know, they pulled off the win. Okay? For the Japanese, guys, they are so concerned about our Navy getting in close. Now, we ended up launching from over 600 miles away on the Doolittle raid, right? But they are concerned about that. So they're going to try and expand their perimeter to prevent our Navy from being able to get in. So they are going to go further south, down here, and we're going to see the Battle of the Coral Sea today in May of 42, and then a month later, they're going to try and take Midway Island. These are the Hawaiian Islands right here. If they can take Midway Island from us, they can launch long-range bombers, land-based bombers, from Midway anytime they want and hit Hawaii. Okay? But by expanding their defense, they are way far away from their main island, which makes them weaker, makes them more vulnerable. And guys, I hate to ruin the story for you, but we're going to be very successful in this battle and even more successful in this battle. Okay? That is a direct result of the Doolittle raid. Okay? We are in active defense. We're not even on the offense right now. Okay? But we can't give away Midway, and we have to protect our England in the Pacific, which is Australia. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about today, but I'm not done with the Doolittle raid. Okay? Now, obviously, guys, this is going to lift American morale. Got the damn Japs back for Pearl Harbor, right? Now, listen, we're friends with the Japanese today. In fact, they're one of our closest allies in the world. You should know that, okay? But back then, we got the damn Japs back, Jap bastards or whatever you want to say, because we're pissed. You know what I mean? And as the nurse said so eloquently at the end of the movie yesterday, all America had known was defeat up to that point. And now we had seen our first victory. Okay? So guys, that's important. You guys, morale is important. Okay, so next thing. Okay. Do any of you guys know what the most popular sport in Japan is? Like, what's the most popular sport in the world? Soccer, or what they call, most people call football, right? Okay, we have American football. But anyhow, soccer, right? But in Japan, it's not the most popular sport. What is the most popular sport in Japan? And South Korea?
Baseball.
Baseball. Like, what, Mr. Ebright? That's an American sport, right? No, Japan is huge, and baseball is huge in Japan. Okay, so like in the United States, the Major League Baseball, most of the players are American or Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, okay, a few Venezuelans, and then you have a few Asians, okay, people from Korea and from Japan, like, I don't know if you ever heard of Ichiro Suzuki, okay, or the guy now.
Starts with the Y, doesn't
What's
it?
that guy's name?
He plays on the Angels.
Yeah, he plays on the Angels. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I know you're talking.
Dude, this guy does what nobody else in baseball does. He pitches and he hits. Okay? No other players do that except for this guy. What's his name?
Johan. Showtime. It's like
Sho Otani.
Shohei Ohtani.
Sho Otani. Okay? Amazing. Like, this guy he might win the MVP. We'll find out.
He's good.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, guys, why Japan? So, guys, back in the 20s, American baseball players did not make a lot of money. Babe Ruth did, okay, because he hit the home runs and he made a lot of money. But most didn't. So in the off season, guys, baseball players would do what were called barnstorming tours. They would come to places like Wichita and play against like exhibition teams from the city that they traveled to, and they'd make money doing that. Guys, in the mid-20s, Babe Ruth led a group of baseball players to Japan and Korea to introduce the game of baseball. Okay? And one of the players that went along was not an all-star. Okay? Most people didn't know who he was, but he was a catcher. His name was Mo Berg. Okay? Mo Berg played his college baseball at Yale. Okay? Like our former president, George Herbert Walker Bush, played baseball at Yale. This is Mo Berg. Okay? He played for the White Sox, the Red Sox, and the Washington Senators. 15 years. Now, he only had like 200 at-bats. So he didn't play a lot. He was a journeyman. But while he was at Yale, he became fluent in 5 different languages, including Japanese. Like, this guy's brilliant, okay? And so what the other players on the Red Sox didn't know at the time was that Mo Berg was a spy, okay? He was working for a guy named Wild Bill Donovan of the OSS. The OSS was the Office of Strategic Services. It's the precursor to the CIA. We didn't create the CIA until after World War II, right after World War II, 1946, okay? The OSS is our spy agency during the war, okay? And Mo Berg was recruited because he could speak many languages and had a great cover as a baseball player. So when Mo Berg went to Tokyo with Babe Ruth, okay, he was given a panoramic camera. And he found himself on the tallest building in Tokyo, which was a hospital, wearing a kimono, okay, pretending, he's like a tourist, right? He's pretending to be a tourist. He wants to go see the city. He goes up on the roof, and he takes photographs of the city of Tokyo. It is those photographs that Mo Berg took in the 20s as a baseball player that were used by Doolittle for reconnaissance, for targets to be chosen for the Doolittle raid. That's a pretty good story, isn't it? You guys ever heard of this? They wrote a book about it. It's called The Catcher and the Spy. You ever heard of The Catcher in the Rye? The book, it's a famous book. Nobody's heard of The Catcher in the Rye? Okay, I got to talk to Fox. All right, our English department. All right. Anyhow, it's a really famous American work. Okay, his book is not as famous. Okay, but you can read it, and you can also learn about some of his other exploits as a spy. Okay, you want to hear another one? Yeah. Okay, so by 1944, he's like, the world is in flames, right? So he's like, you know what? He was a bullpen catcher with the Red Sox. He's like, I'm going to retire. I'm going to go full time with the OSS. Okay. And so he was sent on a mission to Austria, and he was going to listen to a speaker. And the keynote speaker at this conference was a guy named Werner Heisenberg. Heisenberg. Say my name. Heisenberg. Anybody got the reference there? Yeah. We got one, too. You've seen it? Yeah. Breaking Bad. Okay, Heisenberg. You haven't seen it. This is the best TV writing I've seen in decades. It's so freaking good. It's addictive as hell. Okay, and it's awful. It's awful. It's rated R. If you know what I mean. It's just, but the plot and the writing is just fantastic. Okay, so Heisenberg, Werner Heisenberg. Anybody know who that is? Werner Heisenberg? He's the lead atomic scientist for the Germans. So Mo Berg is sent, and he's pretending to be an intern for Texaco Oil. He's going to this conference to listen to Heisenberg. Okay, he's got a gun, pistol, and a suicide pill, and his job is to find out if Germany is close to building the atomic bomb. Okay, because it was German scientists that had proposed it possible to split an atom and possibly create a weapon from that. Okay, Einstein knew about it. He warned Roosevelt about it. Okay, so Mo Berg shows up at this conference, listens to Heisenberg, and if he thinks they're close to building the bomb, his job is to assassinate him. And if he's captured, take the suicide pill. So he doesn't really hear anything from the speech. So he goes to a cocktail party afterward, a reception, and he's eavesdropping. He's listening into Heisenberg's conversations. And he hears him say this. This is mid-44. He says, it's too bad Germany's already lost this war. So, pistol and the suicide pill went unused. Now, some of the stuff he did is still classified today. Another quick story with Berg, Mo Berg, okay? Remember how I showed you Warren G. Harding throwing out the first pitch at the first game of the Major League Baseball season? So I think it was 1945. First pitch of the season, Roosevelt's there. He's going to throw it out from the stands. All the players gather around. They want to catch the ball from the president, okay, like at a wedding, you know, the bouquet or the garter thing. You know what I'm talking about? So they're all gathered around. And president's looking at the players and stuff like that. And he goes, hey, Mo, how you doing? The other players are like, how the hell does Roosevelt know this guy? You know, of all the players, you know? Well, Mo Berg had been in the Oval Office with Roosevelt, okay? They knew each other, okay? Isn't that cool? So he's kind of a hero. Now, took these pictures at the National Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. Any of you guys been in there? Okay, if you ever go to D.C., go to the Spy Museum. It's not part of the Smithsonian museums. It's separate. I think it's private. But you can go in there. It's fantastic. Okay. Now, if you look at the reflection of this photograph over here, you'll see my son. It's what happens when you take a 16-year-old to a museum. He's like, oh my God, Dad, this is so boring. Can you see it? Classic, okay? All right, yeah. Okay, so what else would Doolittle rate? I think that does it right there, okay? Mo Bird, Catcher in the Spot. 15 seasons, all right? So, as I was saying, the Japanese are going to try and expand their perimeter, and they're going south. This is Australia here, right? This port right here is called Port Moresby. It's a naval air station. Okay, so we've got aircraft there, we got Navy there, okay, and the Japanese are going to try and take this. We can't let that happen, okay, because if they control that, they control these sea lanes here, all right? They're also going to land troops here on this Solomon Island called Guadalcanal. This is Florida Island right here as well, okay, and they're going to start building an airstrip on this. If they're successful in building airstrips on Guadalcanal, they will be able to use land-based bombers to bomb our Navy or ships that try and come in and out of Australia. You with me? We got to stop this. So this will become known as the Battle of the Coral Sea, okay? You can see here, guys, we're going to have two carriers, the Lexington and the Yorktown will rendezvous here, okay? Come in here. They're going to be engaged here by the Japanese as they come south. And I'm going to describe this battle for you here in just a second, okay? It will not be what you would consider a victory, but it is, we do have some successful elements to this, okay? So my wife bought me this Time Life World War II book 25 years ago, so see, it's well worn, pages falling out, and so forth, okay? But the authors here really, I like the way they describe the Coral Sea battle, so if you'll indulge me, I'll just read this to you. That's okay. All right? Do I need to turn the lights on? I feel like I'm losing people. Okay, we'll just do that for now. I'll turn them back on. Okay. Now, guys, this is a first in history. This is the first aircraft carrier versus aircraft carrier battle in history. Now, guys, outside of World War II, there are no aircraft carriers. All aircraft carrier battles on this planet have only taken place in World War II. We didn't have any in Vietnam. We didn't have any in Korea. We didn't have any in the Gulf War or anything else. This is it. Okay? And there's only a few of these. So this is the first. First major sea engagement between fleets far out of sight of each other in the Coral Sea, May 4th, it began. Okay? When a Japanese force shielded by 3 aircraft carriers threatened to occupy Port Moresby, okay, hurrying to counterattack came Task Force 17 with 2 carriers, the Lexington and the Yorktown. For the first 24 hours, Task Force 17 and the Japanese groped for each other like blindfolded wrestlers. Then search planes on both sides found targets. Carrier-based Japanese pilots sank the destroyer Sims and mortally wounded the tanker Neosho down here, or right here, down here. Okay. The American pilots had even greater success. Scratch one flat top, a U.S. squadron leader radioed back to the Lexington. Scratch one flat top. What's that mean? Yeah. Okay. Going to sink the 12,000-ton Shoho here on the 7th. Okay. That's a big deal when you sink an aircraft carrier. Okay. Now, the next morning, both fleets almost simultaneously launched their fighter, dive bombers, torpedo planes. Some 70 Japanese planes and 83 American planes pass each other without seeing each other and then find targets and will swarm down on their enemies' nests for 45 furious minutes. Now, you want to talk about a bad feeling. Being on a ship in the middle of the sea with dozens of planes trying to hit your ship. You know what I mean? Dive bombers, high-level bombers, strafing runs, all kinds of stuff. It's scary, okay? The box score favored Japan. Both of our carriers, the Lexington and the Yorktown, were hit. The Lexington fatally. It will sink. In overall effect, though, the Coral Sea battle was to provide the war's first decisive check to Japanese southward expansion. Guys, for 11 years, since 1931, the Japanese have basically been able to do whatever they wanted. This is the first time somebody's going to stop them. Okay? Now, we did sink the Shoho, but moreover, guys, the Ziakaku and the Shoakaku were badly damaged, two other carriers. So we've basically taken 3 Japanese carriers out of commission. Okay? They were badly damaged and they had to go back to Japan. And those 2 carriers would still be being repaired a month later at the decisive Battle of Midway. Okay? So it's just 1 month between this and then the Japanese trying to go out to Midway and take that island, which I will talk about after I let you down, copy these notes down if you want to copy these down. Okay? And we'll talk about what happens with the Lexington here as well when it gets hit. Lily's trying to fly back from St. Louis. Flight just got delayed. She's got a connection in Dallas.
Stupid airlines.
Look at that there, man. Sunny and 35. All right. About good there? Okay. Oh yeah, that's what I was looking at. Okay. So guys, this is the Lexington. Now look. See this big mushroom cloud? This is the Ziakaku that we badly damaged, and this is like an aerial photograph of the Battle of the Coral Sea. So these are not clouds. That's anti-aircraft fire flak. Okay. Now, what happened here, guys, is Japanese torpedoes hit the Lexington, and where the torpedoes went into the Lexington is where we stored the torpedoes in the Lexington. The Lexington has its own torpedo. You follow me? That's an internal explosion. Now, guys, there's about 2,960 sailors on that ship. Almost 3,000. How many think survive? Okay, well, let me read to you from this. A tremendous mushroom cloud billows up from the carrier Lexington after Japanese torpedoes set off the ship's own torpedoes. By late afternoon, the crew had to abandon ship. Their departure was as disciplined as a routine drill. Although 216 men died as a result of this battle, the other 2,735 and a dog, the captain's Cocker Spaniel, made it over the side and were rescued without one drowning. It's hard to believe that out of close to 3,000 men, only 216 died from this. It's freaking amazing, okay? I guess there were not a lot of guys very close to where the explosion took place, okay? That's crazy to think that many people survived, okay? All right, so we move out to Midway. Oh, I forgot to show you this. Did you guys show you that? Did I show you this? These are some B-25s. I took this picture at the air show out of Jabbar about 15 years ago. Just to give you a good, view of the size of these things. Pretty big. And then this is one of the crews that was rescued by some Chinese people after they crash landed. Kind of a funny picture. Sorry, forgot about that. All right. So, come on. We'll do this at some point, the home front. I can't take credit for this photograph, okay? This is actually the National Geographic from one of their, they went back, National Geographic did, and they brought a submarine to Midway Island and photographed sunk carriers and all the airplanes and stuff that were at the bottom of the Atlantic there. You can see it's really clear water. This is just like this reef, okay? The island itself is very small, okay? But we cannot let this fall into Japanese hands. Thing is, guys, we know they're coming, all right? We've broken the naval code. We know they're coming. Does anybody know who the top admiral in the Pacific is for the United States? Chester Nimitz. Admiral Chester Nimitz knows the Japanese are coming, and that's Admiral Yamamoto, right? And so they're bringing 4 aircraft carriers, the Japanese, to take this island. We have 3. We have the Hornet that was used for the B-25 Doolittle raid, the Enterprise, and the Yorktown that was damaged at Coral Sea. A month earlier, they're going to repair the Yorktown at sea. Okay, so we'll have 3 carriers there. Japanese will have 4. Now, if you know the Japanese are coming, then you can come up with a plan. So what Nimitz does is he will keep the American Navy to the rear. Okay, so when the Japanese show up to attack this island, they're expecting to see our Navy. It's not there. And a lot of the Japanese planes that were sent out were fitted with torpedoes, which are used to sink ships. torpedoes aren't going to do you much good on land. Okay, so a bunch of those Japanese planes with torpedoes had to go back to their carrier to refit for bombs. And we got lucky. We spotted that carrier with their planes on the deck, which is how you want to find it. Because you don't want their planes in the air, because then it's easier to shoot you down. And we took that carrier out. That was the first one. Then we're going to take out a second one and a third one. And by late afternoon, we will take out the fourth Japanese carrier. And now I'm making a long story short here. Yes? Okay. This is kind of how it plays out. And I have a video. So this is June 4th. Okay. Nimitz knew they were coming. We're going to sink 4 Japanese carriers. We are going to lose the Yorktown. Now, if you're a Japanese pilot and all the aircraft carriers have been sunk, and you're in the middle of the Pacific, where are you going to land? You're not going to land. You're going to die. And your plane is going away. Your pilot is probably not going to survive. Which means, guys, we will destroy over 200 Japanese aircraft, 200 pilots, and 4 aircraft carriers. So in the span of a month, between the Coral Sea and Midway, 7 Japanese aircraft carriers will be taken out of commission. Now, dude, that is an achievement. This is probably the greatest naval victory in the history of the United States Navy. Midway Island. Okay? The Japanese are going to have to abandon their plans. The balance of naval power has shifted in favor of the United States in the Pacific. Good stuff. Okay. And the movie really explains it all that well. You do get to kind of see what it was like. I've got a couple videos here that'll show you kind of what it was like as well. My dad, who I think I told you guys he flew in Korea, so on his way out to Japan, he stopped at Midway and refueled. Yeah, unless you know where this island is, you would not be able to find it. It's way out in the and you just plop me down with, a fishing pole, a couple cases of rum, and pick me up in a couple years. I'm just going to hang out here for a couple of years. Paradise. Okay, let me pull up this video. It's a little History Channel video. Oops. This one? I need some volume.
Japan strikes Pearl Harbor and America is at war. The aircraft carrier Enterprise leads the U.S. Navy as it strikes back. Now Enterprise is about to face the massive Japanese fleet at Midway. The main force of Japanese ships headed toward Midway include 4 aircraft carriers, 7 battleships, 150 support ships, 248 carrier aircraft, and some 15 submarines. The American Armada is substantially smaller. 3 aircraft carriers, 50 support ships, 233 carrier aircraft, 127 land-based aircraft on Midway Island, and 8 submarines, outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. 6 months after Pearl Harbor, this is all that is left of America's Navy. The carriers were not present in the sneak attack.
Japanese realize U.S. Navy aircraft carriers are still out there and are still dangerous. So what we need to do is get rid of their aircraft carriers and then set up one more outpost farther out into the East Pacific.
Dawn, June 4th, 1942. USS Enterprise floats near the exact center of the Pacific. A force of 109 Japanese aircraft appear over the atoll. They tear into the American base. 7 a.m. Reports of the attack on Midway reach the Enterprise. The flyers scramble to prepare for the launch. They'll have to fly nearly 2 hours to reach the Japanese ships. The Japanese carriers are hit by bombers.
I aimed at the big red circle at the front.
Enterprise's first attack on the Japanese fleet is breathtaking. The outnumbered flyers of Enterprise have wreaked havoc on the Imperial aircraft carriers.
He can look back and he can see the 3 big balls of fire, and there were the 3 Japanese ships that were on fire.
Now there's only 1 Japanese carrier left, the Hiryu. Just before 11 a.m., Hiryu launches its bombers, a retaliatory strike. The first American carrier that lands in the Hiryu bomber's sights is USS Yorktown. And 3 bombs make direct hits on Yorktown's flight deck. At mid-afternoon, a second wave of bombers arrives from the Hiryu. 2 of the torpedoes score direct hits on Yorktown's port side. The listing deck is a serious problem for Yorktown's flyers. The angle means the Yorktown's aircraft have no place to land. There's only one hope for the stranded flyers of Yorktown, the deck of the Enterprise. But there's one more enemy carrier out there. After more than an hour in the air, the dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown come in range of Hiryu. When Hist dives, it's a direct hit. The bow of Hiryu is torn apart. Fire spreads below decks. The Japanese Navy chooses to sink her. Admiral Yamamoto's plan to trap the American carriers has backfired spectacularly. In a single battle, 4 Japanese carriers are sunk. 1 cruiser is scuttled. 228 Japanese aircraft destroyed. And 3,000 Japanese sailors and crewmen are killed. Although the American losses include 1 destroyer and the carrier Yorktown, it is the most surprising victory in the annals of U.S. naval warfare. The epic naval clash off Midway Island changed the face of the Pacific War. It proved that America could not only fight back, it could win. Admiral Yamamoto and the Japanese High Command are shaken. They have awoken the giant and felt its wrath.
Yeah. Woken a giant and felt its wrath. All right. Now, you see those dive bombers? I want to sign up for this. Cooper likes to fly. I'm going to be a dauntless dive bomber. I guess we'll see.
In 1942, the Dauntless dive bomber is a newcomer to the Navy, largely untested in battle. Its big moment is coming soon enough.
This SBD-2 Dauntless is special. It is the only known surviving aircraft from the Battle of Midway, and it has battle scars to prove it. Each one of these metal patches here covers the nearly 200 bullet holes that were put in this airplane when it attacked Japanese carriers on the morning of June 4th, 1942.
Rear gunners face backwards, handling 30 caliber machine guns to fend off enemy attacks. In front, pilots control a plane not known for speed, but for precision. Its 1,000-pound bombs aren't just dropped, they're aimed. It's called dive bomb.
The tactic of dive bombing was very important in naval aviation during World War II, and the SVD Dauntless dive bomber was the prime instrument of that. And the theory was with a ship maneuvering on the surface, you really couldn't drop a bomb from a high altitude.
From 20,000 feet, a carrier is a speck on the ocean. Hitting it with a free-falling bomb is next to impossible. But in a dive, pilots can adjust their aim on the fly and release their bombs at 1,500 feet for a better shot. It's a tactic that takes icy nerves and an iron stomach.
Dive bombing was a death-defying ride of terror. It's basically like a game of chicken that a pilot is playing with the ocean itself. You start at about 20,000 feet, which is about 4 miles above the ocean. Huge ship is going to appear about the size of a ladybug on the tip of a shoe. So it's tiny.
They practice over land targets, plunging into a 70-degree dive.
It is a jarring, noisy, chaotic descent.
They are diving at 275 miles an hour toward their target, keeping an eye on their bomb scope or watching their altimeter.
And last man, turn the bomb release lever on the left side of the cockpit, jerk it back. You pull back on the stick. And if you're not careful, you can black out because all the blood will be sucked from your head and get tunnel vision.
You guys can go.
Compared to Dusty's dive bomb, Tom Eversole's torpedo bombing practice is low and slow.
During torpedo drops, you have to fly very low to the water and very slow, just above stalling speed. And therefore made an easy target for enemy fighter planes.
Good time.
So torpedo bombers typically go in with fighter combat. Even smoke signals